Are you a voting member? Archie County, Colorado Springs Police Department, voting member.
Jamie McCullough, proxy for Fire Chief Green Royal, Colorado Springs Fire Department, voting member.
Dr. Kelly Russell Tinsley, Alpena County Coroner.
You're gonna have to join us.
I like it.
Come on,
Come on, Tim.
get up here. Nobody's helping you out today.
I tried.
And you don't need to be sitting in a corner.
Help by yourself. You're going first every time now.
Thanks, Chief. Can you lower my chair? before
I didn't
do?
touch your chair.
Yeah, or shorter one.
Tim Johnson, voting member.
My police department.
Michelle Wolf, Teller County Public Health Director, non-voting.
Chris Baxter, City of Woodland Park, proxy for Cripple Creek.
Teller County Sheriff's Office, Jake Marcus, proxy for Under Sheriff Stan Bishop, voting member.
Laura Nelson, El Paso County Commissioner, voting member.
Carrie Geithner, El Paso County Commissioner, voting member.
Kenny Hodges, legal advisor to the council.
Amanda Grant, fiscal agent and facilitator for the council.
Eric Stone, Teller County Commissioner, Vice Chair of the Council, voting member.
Lynette Criverson, City Council voting member. We'll move on to the consent calendar for April 29th, 2026. I need minutes approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
So moved. We'll move on to the 2026 strategic plan approval.
Motion to approve. I think we
So-
talked about it ad nauseum.
Ad nauseam.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. We have adopted the 2026 strategic plan. Big yay. Moving on, first time, right? In how many years? That's an accomplishment already. Moving on to staff reports for the financial report. All right.
So I think it was 2 meetings ago that you all provided direction to submit a new 2-year plan and pull funding down from the state. That funding has started rolling in. So to date, there's $13.9 million available for appropriation in the bank account. I believe we've received almost all of it. It's a little wonky how the opioid administrator has to send. I requested 13 million. They have to pull a little bit from each settlement. It's all kind of kept separately. So it's kind of came in several different transactions. And so I think we just need maybe 1 or 2 more and the entire 13 million will be pulled down. Other than that, not much movement other than a few charges on the encumbered contracts we have with one chance to grab the CEC water analytics and then some interest allocation. And then as far as administration updates go, now that the strategic plan has been formally adopted, we have a new website that has been on, what's the appropriate term, just turned off. Nick has redesigned the entire website. So now that you all have adopted the strategic plan, he can turn that on this week, and it'll be completely revamped with all of the information and data contained within our strategic plan, a new application process, and all of those things that we've talked about.
And is that on the county website or is that a separate standing website?
It's the same standalone website. We were able to
Standalone.
do some sort of DST magic where we keep the domain, but it routes through to the county's server so that we can manage it. I don't pretend to know how that works, but I knew I asked them if we could just keep the domain name the same and the email address the same as to not confuse our grantees and constituents. So
Sounds good.
yeah, it's magic. I
It
don't
works.
really know.
That's what matters. Is there any questions about, do you have that domain name? Do you have, is it, what, can you say what it is again?
It's just Pikes Peak Region 16.
Okay, the same one.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Good. I do have a question for
Yeah, of
staff.
course.
I don't know if it's part of their staff report at all, but there was an email that came out not too long ago, within the last 2 weeks, from relaying information in the Attorney General's office about their desire to get this money pushed out as fast as possible. Basically, is coincidentally, obviously, our last meeting we kind of adopted, our strategic plan and a plan for how we would spend that money. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I am.
Okay. In staff's opinion, are we in alignment with what the Attorney General is hoping to achieve, or is this more of, I've got 1 more year and I want as much of this money pushed into the state before I'm done?
Based on the monitoring framework that I reviewed and had emailed with just a short memo to the council, I think that we are in alignment from a legal perspective. There are plenty of checks built into that framework. So in the instance that the AG's office, if the state were to come and say, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, we get notice and an opportunity to be heard under those circumstances. So I think that as things stand currently, I know there have been some statements made. I know that there's draft monitoring paperwork out there. I don't foresee a legal problem, at least as things currently stand.
Okay, thank you.
There are no other questions for the administration update. We'll move on to item 4, which is application review and discussion and approval. And we'll turn that over to Amanda, the facilitator.
Okay, before we get started, would you just introduce yourself for the record?
Sure, Natalie Johnson, Mayor of Manitou Springs. I'm here representing Denise Howell today.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we'll move on to our application review. These are a culmination of all of the kind of holdover applications that we had been receiving under our prior facilitator that hadn't been addressed, as well as a pretty large influx of application we received since the last meeting. I spent some time, actually a lot of time, going through all of these applications. I did an executive summary and a full review against council priorities, as well as the Exhibit E and the MOU that's in place with the state of Colorado to ensure that they comply. Your packets will not have printed applications because it would have been a truckload of paper to haul over. But I did share out that folder with all of you a couple of weeks ago with all of the application materials, budgets, et cetera, that were in there. You do in your packet have a list of applicants and the funding amount requested, as well as what tier they came out in as far as the review goes, and then what strategic pillar that they support in our new strategic plan. Tier 1 applicants are the highest applicants. Those are the ones that show the best alignment with the strategic priorities, have KPIs that are measurable, and have a good history, a good foundation of providing these services within our community. Tier 2 is kind of a mixed bag. Some is newer operations, some have different expansion, maybe some less solidified KPIs as tier 1. And then the tier 3 applicants that are at the bottom of your list, those are the ones that either just tangentially connect to the Opioid Abatement Council and don't have an approved use that's very specifically outlined in Exhibit E, or they're a startup with no previous history, which makes them a little bit riskier. And so that's kind of how they're organized in there. Some of the applications that fall under tier 3 that are harder to draw a connection to the Exhibit E approved uses are there because, as One Chance to Grow Up knows, a couple of weeks ago, we attended a meeting at the state level, and the COAC reviews all of the expenditures that this council makes to ensure that they're in line with Exhibit E. And so when they're looking at it, they sometimes read it pretty literally. Does this expenditure specifically match an approved use in the MOU? And in that case, they determined, yes, it does. It's an evidence-based and evidence-informed program, and so there's not a concern. But it was raised to that level because there was concern that it may not. And so understanding that information and knowing that this council has to be accountable for every expenditure that you all make. So at the state level, if they pull something that we approve, I just want to make sure you are all aware prior to that, that there's not a clear connection or a clear nexus to the MOU or the Exhibit E. You all can still make that determination and then defend it if the state were to say that they don't think it's an approved use. But I would rather you all have that information up front than to be surprised later on that there wasn't a clear connection. And so in those executive summaries I provided all of you, I notated the Exhibit E approved use, or if there wasn't one that clearly identified it, that way you would have that information for decision-making purposes. Also in your packet and provided in the email a week and a half ago are a couple of different funding strategies. Let's see, or am I skipping ahead? Did you? Sorry, there's a couple of other things I want to talk about before we get to funding strategies. Okay, expenditures to date. So we talked last time about what sort of kind of funding strategy that you all wanted to look at going forward over the lifetime of this council. And what we landed on was the more conservative approach that nets us about $5 million a year in discretionary spending. And so for 2026, there are already some grants that were paid out. There's some contract spending that's already been paid in the purple table. And then the orange table has some obligated contract spending. So there's still $112,000 remaining on CEC's contract and $324 those remaining on the One Chance to Grow Up contract. Those are expenditures that have just not been expensed yet, but they're already obligated because we have a committed contract with those organizations. So when you look at the grants that you've already approved in 2026, as well as the contract spending, we've spent just over $3 million, leaving about 1.645 available for appropriation should you want to stay within the funding model. Again, it's council's discretion to stay within that funding model or to choose to fund above or below that amount. That's just kind of that guardrail of if what you all decided at the last meeting is kind of where you want to stick. Just as a side note, contract spending doesn't include your fiscal agent or facilitation fees. Those are not in the model. They're already built out and taken before any discretionary funds are in there. So you don't have to worry about taking that out of the 1.6. And then the UC health contract was paid out in 26 and expires in November of 26. If they are going to ask for an extension, whether we pay that end of November or into 2027, it doesn't materially affect the forecasting models that Taylor provided last year, just because it's so close to the end of the year. Next slide. So this next slide, this is just a pie chart that kind of shows you all what you've spent to date in the pillars. So I went back from the inception of council and kind of took all of the different things that you all have funded and deposited it into one of the pillars that are in this new strategic plan. And you can see that recovery and treatment and intervention have been funded pretty close to the same amount with each other. Youth and systems and data coordination have been funded quite a bit less than those two. And so I know we talked about kind of rebalancing and reorganizing and looking at how we can fund these pillars as appropriate. And so I just wanted that information available to you guys before we start looking at applications now, just so you see that recovery and treatment are about 50-50. Systems and data collection is a little bit less. And then youth prevention has the least amount of investment thus far. And I would note that the treatment and intervention has a vast majority of that funding has primarily been the funding provided to like CSBD and El Paso County Sheriff's Office to do kind of that justice involved sort of treatment and intervention. Next slide. So this packet of applicants, we divided them up by their strategic pillar and their tiers so that you could see kind of where all of those lie. There's a total of $11.2 million in request for this round of funding. 3.7 of that lies in tier 1, 6.3 in tier 2, and just over 1.1 in tier 3. Prevention makes up about 2 million, while recovery makes up 7.5 and treatment about 1.8. There wasn't a lot of requests for data or systems integration, which isn't surprising. That's very new to this council to be looking at that. And so at this point, the grant requests we receive are typically from community partners working in the treatment and recovery space. So some of those systems and data coordination are probably things that we're going to have to really discuss with our community partners and kind of put out if we're looking to fund those sort of initiatives. Next slide. Okay, so, yep, go ahead.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding, if we can go back to the other slide.
Yeah.
So there's $11 million in requests, but out of those, we only have 1.645 million
Correct.
to fund.
Yes. Okay, so in your packet, as well as in the email that I sent out, I provided a couple of different funding scenarios just to kind of get the conversation started and give you all some idea of how you could approach this or move towards, because I understand it's difficult to have 11.7 million with 1.6 and available for allocation deciding to stay in that funding model. And so I wanted to give you guys a couple of different approaches that might be helpful to start the conversation. Scenario one would be a high confidence core systems approach where you prioritize the highest scoring and most operationally mature programs that have direct opioid impact and strong measurable outcomes. So that would really focus heavily on your tier one programs and concentrates funding in a smaller number of applicants and programs, but those that have the highest confidence and measurable outcomes. Tier two would be a more balanced portfolio approach where you diversify across all your strategic pillars, maintaining prevention and treatment investments, reducing some overconcentration in housing. This time around, we saw a very large influx in recovery housing applications. And so that's just a note for you all to know that there are several organizations that are providing that service. And so we've seen a very large influx in those applications. A balanced portfolio approach relies heavily on partially funding most requests, but specifically larger requests. Some of the largest requests are at $1 million or over. And so you can see how it would be very hard to not partially fund some of those requests if you're looking to diversify and fund a larger applicant pool. Scenario three would fund the most applicants, but at much lower levels. It prioritizes scalability and operational efficiency. And then would look at kind of your dollar for dollar use of funds, kind of comparing some of the organizations of cost per client served, that kind of thing, to try to minimize duplication, but still provide a larger volume of applicants, a smaller portion of funding. Okay, so I will stop there to see if anyone has any questions or thoughts on any of these. Yes, ma'am.
Given that we can't fund all of them because of the money available, what are the guidelines for applicants to try again? Do we have guidance for them?
Yes. So today, I'm hopeful that council can make a decision on all of these applicants. You can choose to fund the ones that you choose to fund. If there are any that you all looked at over the last week or two with applications and you're like, gosh, I'd really like more information from them, you could certainly let me know and we could have them come back without reapplying, but just come back and give you more information. Or just ask, deny their application this time and provide information on when they could apply again. The next round of applications opens July 1st. It'll be open until September 1st, and this council will review those applications in October. So that will get us on our correct fall, spring application cycle. So it seems a little close between this May and then reopening in July, but it's to align us with the new strategic plan. Yes, ma'am.
And then in July, how much money will we have?
5 million, if
$5 million.
approximately 5 million, if you want to stay on this same funding structure.
Is that for just the July to September applicants, or does that then impact it?
So
for
it's
next
for
spring?
12 months, so it would be for
Yeah.
2 funding cycles. So it would be for the fall 26 and spring 27 application cycle that you would want to divide that 5-ish million up in. So I have some additional slides that talk a little bit more about each one of these scenarios. And I wasn't sure if anyone on council has a certain scenario they'd like to start with, or they'd like to discuss further, if you want me to just go through all 3.
I'm okay with you just going through all 3.
Okay. So just as a reminder, these funding scenarios and recommendations are they're recommendations from staff. I've reviewed the applications. I've gone through them during chair vice chair meeting. And so council obviously still has access to all of the applications and has the authority to fund, not fund, whatever they'd like. These are just recommendations based upon the information that I had. Okay, so under scenario 1 in the high confidence core systems approach, the applicants that scored the highest were the 4th Judicial District, Family Drug Court, Step Springs, Homeward Pikes Peak, Springs Rescue Mission, CSPD's Outreach, and Hope Colorado Springs. And so in your packet, your sheet that looks like this. It's a little table. It'll tell you the name of the applicant and the amount that they requested. This recommendation diversifies over 6 applications, but not at the full amount that they've requested. Fourth Judicial District's full amount because it's a lower amount. Step Springs requested just over $1 million. Springs Rescue Mission requested 1.2 million. Homeward Pikes Peak almost 600,000. CSPD is the requested amount there, and then Hope Colorado Springs requested just over $500,000. And so I adjusted some of the recommended awards based on just the idea of funding a couple of more organizations. You could decide, gosh, we really like one of those and we'd like to fund it at their full ask, or move things around. This was just a recommendation based on kind of the top 6 awardees, and where I saw in their application that it looks like that amount could be scalable and could work for them. They could still get some sort of benefit from the funding without the full funding ask. Scenario 2, which has a more balanced portfolio approach and some additional applicants being funded, again, at lower amounts than they requested. It funds an additional array of services that kind of expand the spectrum of services that are being provided. And so that recommends 11 different organizations receiving a smaller amount. So it takes, you know, the pot of money and spreads it a little thinner. And then under scenario 3, which is a high value diversified approach, you provide more funding to, or less funding to more organizations without those larger organizations receiving funding. And so that would, it would just provide, you know, more applicants a little bit of money, but not fund some of those bigger asks. And so I think it's a council discussion or decision to be had of, do you find the value in these larger requests and funding bigger organizations with a larger request, understanding the scale that they work, or if you're more interested in, you know, providing a smaller amount of funding to a larger number of organizations to just supplement part of their budget request. I think there's pros and cons either way, but that's certainly council's discretion. Any thoughts, ideas, anywhere they want to move? Yes, ma'am.
I'm just gonna jump in with a couple of my thoughts, and I'm sure we'll have a great discussion here. I kind of looking through these, there were some that stuck out to me in some areas that in my mind were super important to me to kind of prioritize, looking at that number of how many dollars we had. And so I will say to our Teller County friends, one of those things is I really felt like it's important for us to make sure that we keep Teller County and some very specific things that are there. So Open Hearts and Open Doors stuck out to me as a program that I think has been very valuable. I want to hear your feedback if you still feel that way, but it seems like it's been valuable to Teller County. And so that was one that stuck out to me. So I kind of went through, I appreciate these scenarios, but I kind of really went through and to think through where I thought the dollars could be best used and what areas were kind of the most important. So it's kind of a mixture of all of these things. They're all tier 1, but with kind of a mixture. So that was one that I felt was really important that we focus on, as long as, you know, Commissioner Stone doesn't have any different thoughts on how to best support Teller County. I thought that the Colorado Judicial, the Fourth Judicial's request is a very important one. It's something that we have talked about and wanting to have that support and kind of asked for them to do in a lot of ways. So I think that's a very important one. And so as I went through CSPD, that's another one that I thought was really a super valuable one that I don't think we could afford to not fund. And Looking at youth, I know the youth side, was smaller on that pie chart, which I thought was a really useful tool. I am really interested in Blue Rising. And then I kind of took like what was left over after those ones that I felt kind of strongly that were really valuable. Not there aren't many valuable organizations, but were ones that I felt like we should focus on based on both the conversations here and what we have funded previously. And then kind of stood back and thought about how I felt about bigger amounts versus smaller amounts. And I kind of have different feelings about this at sometimes. But there's a couple of pieces of information I thought might be valuable to council. One is, I think Springs Rescue Mission is a very valuable asset in our community. However, one thing that I do know is that they are requesting congressionally directed spending from Congressman Crank's office, and El Paso County has agreed to be the fiscal agent on that, and it's for 1.3 million. We don't know if that's gonna come through or not, but it was in my mind that that might be a huge area that they're able to get funding through the federal government. So I was kind of keeping that in mind. That's one of the things, when we're looking at things in the county, we're often looking at which pots of money that there are that people are eligible for. So just something to keep in mind that made me think, maybe Springs Rescue Mission is one that, we might want to ask to reapply for the July and see where this federal money goes. And so that would be part of the consideration. And if they don't receive any of that funding, then maybe we want to do something different. But I do think it's an important thing to consider. And then the last one that I'll mention is just Step Springs. This program, I think, is one of the most demonstrated success programs. They have had so much success both in Denver and here. Their ask is very large, but I think just a reminder that they do not take government tax dollars in any way from any government. So the only reason that they're applying for this funding is because it's settlement dollars. So the areas that they go through, again, not like Springs Rescue Mission or something who's applying for federal dollars. So they have a much more limited scope that they ask for from a government perspective. So I'm more in favor of maybe of funding this one at a higher level. I think partially because of that, partially because it's a much newer program to our area that is really adding capacity. And I think that's also important going back to the very beginning of this council. If you guys remember the early days, that was one of the things that we really said that we needed was these beds for recovery. So I continue to think that that's a really important one that we might consider funding at a very high level because of the uniqueness of the program. I also think it's pretty spectacular that the program does not encourage any of the individuals who are going through the program to get on any kind of government services. So it's a huge burden off of government because there's no Medicaid, there's none of any of those types of services. They're helping them get a job, budget, and live self-sufficiently. So overall, the investment in that organization from a getting them started perspective should lead to less dependence on government funding overall, which I think is important for future sustainability and return to our community. Just an idea.
Well, to add to the Step Springs, the last presentation I went to, which was just a few months ago, they had only, since they've been open, which I believe is a year in June, no, a year in the fall. A year in the fall, so they haven't been open quite a year, but halfway through. They had only had 3 relapses. And those 3 have since are back on track and haven't had, I mean, that's crazy to even think 3 relapses and they're back on track, they're working, so their program is working. To your point, when we talk about best and high use, having that in our community and having those beds, and they move them out pretty quickly too. I mean, they have them jobs. They are right now working with some houses in different parts of the city with philanthropy. So they actually are going to have on their own, not asking, for, this is just operations. So these men are going to actually, have their own transitional house very soon. So to see that work in Denver as well as it does, it's actually working quite quickly here, to your point. So I definitely could support full funding to Step Springs.
We're gonna try to do math in public, so give us a little bit of grace.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so Carrie, I agree with, nearly everything that you said there. As for, Open Hearts, Open Doors, actually, I'd like to refer over to both, Michelle and Jake, who probably have, a more intimate relationship with, the Conleys and the organization. It's in the southern half of the county is kind of where they, tend to focus, but, I mean, the reports I hear back are really good, but I'd like to hear some comments from you guys on those as soon as I'm done with these other ones. But Step Springs, I agree 100%. I love that organization. I remember them, from many years ago when they were in, and still are in Denver, but when they first started, and then have now transitioned into what they are today. But their track record is undeniable. Really, they're fantastic, and I'm glad they're here. And definitely think we need to support them, and we just got to figure out how much. As for, specifically which ones to leave in, leave out, interesting on the congressionally directed funding is, if I can ask, is that something, since the county has stepped in to be the fiduciary on that, is it kind of like a joint request that you guys have put in, or how are they looking at that? And I know, we're working in our county as well on a couple of those requests, and kind of know how ours are working. But like, as a county, we're assisting some of our other organizations, putting our lobbying might behind them as well. Is that kind of the same thing that's going on with them?
Yeah, I would say that's very similar. You have to have a government sponsor for a nonprofit. And so that's where we stepped in and so that we would do that. And yes, so we are working on and
Are they in the bill? Are they in the draft, I should say?
I'm not sure where that particular funding stream is right now. Like, I know some of ours have already gone into the marked up drafts. But I'm not sure where that one is in the process right now.
That's fair.
Mhm.
But I'm certainly okay with like waiting to see what happens there with kind of a general agreement of the council, not to, we can't pre-decide stuff in the future, but a desire to support, should that not come through, I'm okay with holding back on it so we can fund a couple of other things. I think that's smart. And then beyond that, though, there's one organization not on the list that I just want to say I would like to keep our eye on. And it's a tier 2 right now, and it's not really even a 2026. I think it's going to be more appropriate as we move into latter 2026 or maybe even early 2027, which is I gotta put my glasses on, the Vivo Colorado Springs school for the establishment of a alternative school for students recovering from from addiction. They've already got a model going on in Denver that appears to have been, it's only 3 years old, but successful and growing.
Referring to like 5280, so.
Yeah, 5280 is the one in Denver. Yes, this would be the one in Colorado Springs they're calling Vivo, but I just want to, we're not considering it today as much, but I just wanted to mention it because I was really impressed by it. And I realized that for when they're looking at opening, we might be able to be more effective help maybe in future funding ventures. But in knowing where we were on the pie chart in regards to monies going into youth, I think as we look forward and if we're really looking at making an impact, that's something that not only can have an impact, but also one thing I really liked about what they had in there was that this is startup and they have a plan for sustainability. That this is that this is an ask that'll carry them for a couple of years as they get started. And then once they get started, then they'll have other funding sources. So I just wanted to point out that was one that I think has promise. Realize it's not on our top here today, but I just wanted to bring it up so that it doesn't get too low in the barrel of fish for the future.
Commissioner, I think that's an insightful observation. The state does hold back a share of all of the opioid council funding for what they call the statewide infrastructure share. And so any of these organizations that are requesting funds like Vivo 2.0 for capital, should you all choose not to fund them today, I will refer them over to the state grant application cycle for infrastructure funding. And because that's what that's specifically set aside for. They take a little bit off the top of every region and hold that back for those bigger capital investments. And so that might be a better opportunity. And then once they're open, this council could look at how we support that.
Yeah, and in their last round of funding, they didn't support a single applicant from our region,
That's right.
and maybe even the last two, because I know Teller County applied for one 2 cycles ago, and they were declined on that one as well. So they haven't put any infrastructure dollars into our region yet, and that might be a good one for us to get behind and support.
Yep.
Yeah, looking at the COAC, I think the least it's 500,000 and up there. They've been very, to Amanda's point, 500, that nothing's been below 500. So that would be really good if they could get a COAC grant around that. Definitely,
Yeah.
we can help them in that way too.
Yeah, council's supportive. We can certainly draft a letter of support. Having that sort of connection or that partnership with a regional opioid abatement council makes those applications a lot stronger at the state level. And so if that's something you all want, we can move that direction.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
And then did you want to speak?
Yeah, and actually, I just wanted to ask you guys to talk about Open Hearts, Open Doors.
Don't know a whole lot other than I've heard nothing but positive things. We did receive some letters from some community members that were anonymous that are regarding Aspen Mind Center, which is one of our community centers in Cripple Creek, which is also near where Open Hearts and Open Doors is located. But they're just expressing how important their women sober living program is, and how we're seeing a lot of women that are not getting the services that they need on that side of the county when they're either released from detox or jail, or they're getting released from psychiatric hospitals. So there is a need in our community. So I'm in full support of, just based on that, I'm in support of continuing understanding. I'm not a voting member, but I am supportive of their program because it is important, especially knowing that we do lack a lot of services. I mean, even just primary care services in our community.
For Open Hearts and Open Doors, from the sheriff's office perspective, as well as the jail perspective, they've been a true asset for us as well. Doing either referrals out of the jail, or if we have frequent flyers, they've actually become less frequent flyers because of Open Hearts and Open Doors. I've got nothing but positive things to say about that program, primarily being based out of the southern portion of the county. And would definitely have full support to fund them. On top of that, I do know that there is one other program, just to kind of go off of that, would be Face It Together. They've been based out of Teller County as well, and working very well for recovery. And I think that's one we should probably also at least take under consideration to potentially fund. They do offer quite a bit of services to both counties. So.
So if you do your math, public math, Amanda, let's work, this is just starting our public math with the Colorado Judicial Branch. We can look at Step Springs as we go, CSPD. Face It Together, Open Doors.
Blue Rising.
And Blue Rising, yep, and Blue Rising, I didn't mark that one. And then we'll put the hold on 2.0 Vivo for COAC for now. We're just gonna put that in the parking lot.
Mhm.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that correct? Is that what you have up there?
Yep, and that would get us to that orange number of 1.894, including Face It Together. Commissioner Geithner's initial suggestion without Face It Together was 1.653. So that's the difference between those two numbers over there.
And we have 1.6 to spend.
1.65.
I would like to still advocate, I mean, at Step Springs, I'm impressed by their work, but having existed in the area for less than a year when it's competing against organizations that, like for me, Ford Evolution has been impressive, Homeward Pikes Peak, and the Phoenix as well. And so I was actually gravitating more toward that scenario 3 in really advocating for a number of different organizations. And so I just would like us to consider that Step Springs, maybe reducing that and incorporating some others in there. That seems like a lot for me, for an organization that hasn't existed for a year.
This is, I don't know if you're aware, they've been in Denver for like years. So
Yeah,
they have
I
a
understand
huge
that.
track record. Yeah.
Yeah, which I do appreciate that, but I just want to throw that out, that there are organizations that have been here supporting our people here for a long time too. So I'm glad they're here, but I believe that they will be successful. I'm comfortable supporting some of our longtime folks too. But that being said, I am really excited that the Open Hearts and Open Doors, I think that's great. Doing the Teller County piece. And again, with that Forge Evolution, just again, because they support kids, I think that's something that is important.
I mean, I will echo that. I was intrigued by Forge Evolution because it was also the youth focus and I was already kind of gravitating towards just remembering past conversations that we haven't done a lot with youth, and then seeing the pie chart definitely confirmed. But I guess my thought is we ask some specific ones to just come back, or whether it's they have to reapply or they're raised to the top of the list to be considered for the next funding cycle. Because I think it is really valuable to fund things that can prove and have data backing what they're doing. So I am very comfortable with fully funding Step Springs because they can provide outcomes, and maybe they are new to our community, but you know, they have been in Denver for many, many years. And even in the time that they've been here, they have proven more than some of these organizations that have been here for years and years. Like, they actually can show us that they're improving people's lives and helping them to be self-sufficient with getting jobs. And so not just recovering, but also thriving. I guess what can you repeat what our options are for, like, if there's ones that we are interested in, but given our limited funding right now, but
Yes.
to maybe fund later?
Yes, and so I was trying to look some stuff up in my other documentations just based on what your concerns. So the Phoenix did receive a $500,000 grant award in our last round of funding. That grant agreement expires November 30th of 2026. And so if you all chose not to fund them in this round, they would certainly be able to reapply in the next round. And should you choose to approve them in the next round, there wouldn't be a lapse of funding, is what I'm saying. There right now, if we funded them today, there would be an overlap in a prior grant plus this grant.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Phoenix for the.
And
I
I'm,
think that's one of those things too, thinking through who's been funded and waiting a bit too, because I think to get kind of their final reports in and do some evaluation. Is there anyone else that we're talking about that?
ma'am, could you remind me the other organizations?
Forge Evolution
Forge Evolution has not received funding from the council previously.
and then Homer Pikes Peak.
Homeward Bikes Peak has received 2 rounds of funding previously. The last round of funding was $581,340. That agreement was from July 30th of 25 to July 30th of 26. So they still have about 2 months left of their current.
And you said that was their second.
That was their second round.
So what did they receive first from?
Oh, you'll need to give me just a moment to find that if you don't mind.
So just so I'm clear, Amanda, the next 2 rounds are about 2.5 million.
If you want to split it
If
half.
we
and
split, because it's 5 million, which there's plenty of room for the next round. I mean, all of these are great organizations, but obviously best and highest use for me and outcomes is the most important thing, that we're actually getting outcomes, not that we're funding everybody. That's not the key here. The key is to have really good outcomes, and knowing the 2 next rounds are much bigger than this round. And there's going to be a lot more money in the next rounds. I hate to sprinkle down these to the point where it just helps somebody get by. That doesn't help any organization. To be able to fund organizations for what they ask for is what they need, to me, is more important than giving them half of what they need. Because we can in the next 2 applications, if you think of it that way.
Sure. The previous funding for Homeward Pikes Peak was 400,000. in the first round of funding.
Can I just make a suggestion and we'll see how people feel about this based on it. But just looking at the numbers and thinking about that we also have we have a July opening. And I hear you on the teller too, but I'm like, should we split the difference and say like, well, or we could do it either way of these, I guess, but we could say, let's try and fund one per teller this time and one per teller next time. Since it's only a few months down the road, and do the same thing on like, we're talking about 2 youth organizations and do 1 youth this time and or conversely, try and do it the other way, which is we want to fund all the teller stuff this time and we'll try and fund a big chunk of youth next time, or vice versa. I don't know, just like some ideas of how we could divide that up to try and get to that 1.65 number.
And July is only 2 months away.
I know, that's what I'm saying, it's so close.
It's not
that
even,
Yeah.
yeah.
And ma'am, to that point, Face It Together has also been funded twice. Their most recent round of funding was for 200. They came back and changed their mind, 88,500, and that grant agreement is set to expire July 31st of 2026. So Face It Together might be another organization we would encourage to apply in the July round.
I would agree with that. I would certainly agree to say that Face It Together, because they do provide services in both El Paso and Tellard, to tell them to come back in the July funding.
Cinda,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. Could you remind us about Hope COS also?
If they've received funding before, sure, just give me.
And so while she's doing that, while you're doing real math, if you take off the Face It Together, the 240, 650, 54, where are we?
At the yellow number, which is like 1.653. Yes, ma'am. Hope Colorado Springs was funded 356,197.14. That agreement is also set to expire July 31st of 2026.
I'm sorry, Amanda, I thought you were just doing one and he was looking at the real math. I thought there was.
Oh, that's okay. I was answering her question, but
You're not doing real math?
She was multitasking.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were doing the real math, so I'm sorry about that.
no, you're fine.
Both were occurring.
Yes, so if you all funded the yellow organizations with this 4th Judicial District, Step Springs, CSPD's Opioid Survivor Program, Opioid Family Advocate, Blue Rising, and the Open Hearts, Open Doors at their full ask, that would be the 1.653, 801.61 pennies. Which is almost exactly what I think I told you.
Yeah, no, it's like within $3,000.
Yeah, very, very close. Yeah, 1.645 was like the perfect math if you spent exactly according to state group. Like, yeah,
I mean, that's pretty close.
That's a rounding error.
Because hey, now
At this
Paso County,
point.
that's a rounding error.
Yes.
That's real money.
That's true. It is a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
but I mean, as far as like those long-term projections and looking at year over year and interest allocation, $8,000 won't make a difference in those projections.
And I could say, I could support this. I'm comfortable with these and these amounts. It keeps us in line. And then I think it sets us up for July, for a lot of these things moving forward, especially because there's some previously funded ones that might wrap right into that. And then again, getting some of these other programs to look at the COAC, and then also for us to even look at the COAC a little more seriously. I know we've been aware of it, but not super active. We've done a couple of little things in it, but I think it's time for the state to also step up and help support, some core stuff, and that would be a good one. So I'm okay with this.
Is there any? We're gonna make a motion. I need a motion in a second, but
Motion to
comments
approve
before?
Thing that's highlighted?
In yellow.
In yellow. In yellow.
So we'll go through it again. Amanda, just read them, each
Yes.
one.
So the 4th Judicial District Family Drug Court at $160,757. Step Springs at $1,050,122.61. Colorado Springs Police Department for their Opioid Family Advocate Program, that's $240,712. Blue Rising for $75,000, and Open Hearts, Open Doors for $127,210.
So is that your motion, Jake?
That is my motion then.
Best motion of the.
Best motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that was easy. So moved. And in the next round, we have more money, so it'll be more fun.
For the
Right?
remaining applicants, are there any applicants that you all would like to see additional information, or would someone be willing to make a motion to disposition the rest of these applications as not funded during this round? And then I can provide that information back that they were formally not funded and they can reapply in July.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, there you go, Amanda.
Thank
Have
you.
your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well,
And-
right along, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say also for all those applicants, I think it would be probably be valuable for them. Maybe you were already doing this, but you know, all the summaries that you provided and the scoring is, please provide that back to applicants so they can look at it and see, and they can grade their own paper after we grade it, you know, after we've given it a grade, so that they can look and see, you know, how they might be able to tweak what they're doing to maybe you know, be more favorably looked at in the future. I don't know if you're already planning on doing that, but I think it would be valuable to them to see what we were using in our considerations.
Yeah, and then just put more emphasis on those that apply that are looking for more of the capital. And then maybe we can draft some criteria here for COAC and have that ready to go for them as well. Okay, because I think they just don't know.
And youth, capital and youth.
The
Well,
COAC,
the COAC.
the COAC is just capital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they call it infrastructure, but it's,
It's capital.
when you look at what they actually funded, you know,
It's-
some of it actually is brick and mortar stuff, like down San Luis Valley.
Yeah, Lamar
You know.
is brick and mortar.
Yeah, there's brick and mortar down there that they
Yep.
funded, so, anyway, I think we need to look for those opportunities to help them, you know, get that.
For sure. I agree.
Amanda, this was just really excellent. There was so much information to process, and the spreadsheets were just so succinct and easy to navigate. And so thank you to you and your team, whoever did all of that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to public comment. Do we have a list? Did we get a list?
I have a list at the podium if anyone send it. Yeah, this was my last, just at our next meeting, since we won't be reviewing applications, I'll be looking to see who from the community is ready to come do a report out on their outcomes thus far. That is my goal in moving to this 2 times a year process for grant applications, that is that every meeting isn't spent just reviewing applications, that we can actually start having folks come in and talk about their outcomes, what they're doing in our communities, and providing some of that real-time information. We'll also be providing a data update. We've started forming the data subcommittee. And so we're hoping to have a meeting internally with staff first to kind of get our wits about us. And then we'll be working with Commissioner Stone as the chair of that subcommittee to really start digging into those KPIs. And then one additional topic that I did just want to bring to the attention of the council that I'd like to bring back to our next meeting is our contract with CEC Analytics to do the wastewater treatment testing. I've received a couple of reports from them. I've forwarded those on to Dr. Emily, our coroner, and herself in her office, including her chief toxicologist, have reviewed those reports and had quite a few questions regarding the integrity and the validation methods used for their data. I've sent those questions back to CEC and I received their responses yesterday. Based on some of their responses and some of their questions, I think it would be prudent for this council to review that contract and the information to determine if you all want to continue collecting that data, if it's useful for you, or if we would like to explore something different.
So can we schedule a report for that on the 24th then, and get it on the agenda? Is that what you're recommending?
That is,
Okay,
yes.
good.
Yep. I'm happy to send those reports to anyone ahead of that meeting who wants them. I'm not smart enough to understand anything that's in a ton of sciencey stuff. So anyone, I'll put them in the drive and I'll share it out with all of you. But I wish if Emily, I'll talk to Emily when she comes back. Her chief toxicologist put together a really good summary of her concerns around some of the data. And if she's okay with me sharing those concerns with you all, I will also forward that information to you so that you all have it. I think a couple meetings ago, we asked that they reach out to Cherokee Metro Water District to become another point of contact, and I asked for an update on that, and they told me, oh, we haven't heard back. And so, yeah. So I would like to bring all of that information to our June meeting, and hopefully agendize that so you all can make a decision on whether you want to move forward with that contract.
Amanda, can you ask for documentation of how they reach out and,
Yes.
how frequently, like, you know, was this, we left a message once, or, you know, let's make them justify, they were asked to do that, and so I think it would be great for us to get more specifics on how hard they tried.
I sure will.
Back to your subcommittees. Do we have 2 subcommittees right now?
We do. We formally have 2, well, one is a data, sorry, I might be using the wrong word. Tell me if I'm using the wrong word, because it's a working group of mostly staff for the data. So it's not a subcommittee of voting members. The other one is a subcommittee of voting members, and that is to look at the non-voting members. That subcommittee hasn't met in quite some time. I sent an email out a couple of months ago to the members of that subcommittee, just with the information of here's the last folks who were formally put on as non-voting members. Here's their attendance records, and let me know if you'd like to schedule a meeting. And so nothing has to happen in that committee. It's only if that committee chooses to meet and they'd like to change the process or add additional formal non-voting members to the council.
I just remembered there were 2, but
Yep.
I didn't even remember what they were. So thank you for that update.
So I'm sorry, one subcommittee and one
One staff working.
working group. All right.
Working group.
I don't want to get myself in trouble here. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
I have a question, a couple of questions. And I'm thinking about the grantee reports and that we have several applicants who have previously received funding and maybe now will be applying again since they weren't funded this time around. Just, are we getting information back on how it's being used and if it is being effective? And is that being incorporated when you're analyzing their application? Is that one of the criteria, if they've been funded previously?
So it will be criteria moving forward through no fault of the grant recipients or really this council. The reporting structure was not either existent or not good. They just received kind of the templates that you guys have approved and have been filling those out over the last couple of months. So there wasn't enough data to glean from our current recipients, just based on the last couple of months that they had those formalized templates. So I did note, like, the applicants who have previously received funding, I noted in the executive summaries if they've sent in their reports, and most of them have sent in their reports, there just isn't enough data for me to really do an analysis of if their KPIs are meeting their outcomes that they said that they were going to meet in their applications. But going forward, that's absolutely a piece of the criteria.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I would encourage anyone that wants to apply again to highly think about coming and giving a grantee report to help us inform our decision on to fund you next time or not.
Yes, I can reach out specifically to some of the organizations who've received funding before and their funds are expiring to invite them to come and report out at this June 24th meeting.
I think especially if we think that, or they already have submitted the application, is it actually currently open for July?
It's not, it'll open July 1.
Okay. So, and you said we'll be reviewing this in October?
Yes, ma'am.
So to really prioritize those folks who have already gotten funding and are, and are applying again as of July, of try and make sure we get the opportunity to hear from them before we have to make a decision on future.
Will do. Did you say that, so we approved templates for them to be filling out? Is that in the shared drive or where
is.
can I go look at those again to remind myself?
It is in the shared drive. I just have to make sure that you have access to that folder.
Okay.
I've been trying to organize the folders and give you guys access as they make sense.
Yeah.
But I'll make sure that you have access to those.
Yep. I'm just curious what we're asking. I can't remember.
If somebody in the gallery's got their hands up.
Yeah, well, if they have a public comment, we'll take that at that time.
All right.
Is there any other questions, comments? Are we ready for public comment? Yeah. Tim, you're so noisy today. You need to hold it down. I'm glad you moved up, join us. Maybe we'll put you back in the corner.
That's how we do it.
I was really digging the corner.
Back there. And that's how we do it in Monument.
Oh, that's how you're one of those. I got you. You monument people?
On there.
Oh, okay. Alright. So sir, that had your hand up. I don't see you on the list.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment regarding the discussion. Specifically, I was going to, see, I can hold my,
No, I'm happy to. We just have a list maybe you didn't know.
no, I had no intention of making public comment. I
Well-
just wanted to share the appreciation I had for the process, actually.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll call on Allison Dodge and then you can be next. I'll put you on the list. Allison, for our One Chance to Grow Up update.
Monthly update. Thank you, Region 16 Council. Amanda alluded to early in the meeting, the COAC Assistance Committee and then the full COAC Committee did review our methodology and all of our science and deemed that, yes, indeed, we do fall within the National Exhibit E approved uses. And we're very excited for your support and for the ability to have them say that. And this just bolsters what we're doing and why it's so important. So thank you for that. Wanted to bring to your attention quickly, the Colorado School of Public Health is having an art opening called Hearsay here in Colorado Springs on June 5th at the Cottonwood Center for the Arts. And it is the School of Public Health in an inventive way getting the word out about high potency THC and the detriments thereof. So the exhibit will be there June 5th through the 26th at the Cottonwood Art Center. I just wanted to bring that to your attention because we helped secure some funding for that and much more that the School of Public Health does for kids and research into high potency THC. And then wanted to let you know that Whitney says all of May was Teller County, not all of May, but there was a lot of Teller County going on in May. A presentation at Aspen Mine, then garnered another presentation at Parents Challenge. She's working with professional development for staff and teachers at both Woodland Park High and Cripple Creek High with an event in October at the Rampart Library. We have contracted to participate and be sponsors of the YMC runs this fall. There's 4 of them. So we'll have our big tent out there and it's cold. We will again have our hot coffee to talk to parents. And we had garnered 307 million impressions and 29,000 visits to our highriskthc.org website, with each person spending an average of 1 minute, 53 seconds on the site. I reported that before, but I wanted to reiterate because that part of our program has now finished for this kind of 12-week rollout. And we're working with all the groups that we've already been in contact with to see if we might get that landing page website out through their channels. Saying that, yes, we've heard from One Chance to Grow Up and we want you to know what they have to say and here's their landing page. So we're working on that. And do you have any questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really wasn't intending to formally speak, but thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair, and for the whole committee. James McLaughlin with UPass Regional Health Service District. We were an award recipient from last year. And really all I was gonna say is it was a little bit difficult in the beginning. And once the El Paso group took over and really formalized processes and got things really, it's been absolutely incredible working with these folks and getting the contracting done, and they really laid out some clear opportunities for deliverables and really helped us with that. And it actually helped with the project a little bit too. So I wanted to share my heartfelt, sincere appreciation for this group and the work that they're doing. And I look forward to coming back in later in the year and sharing some of the amazing work that we're doing with the funding, especially around data collection. we realized that you can't fix the problem until you have a better understanding of what the challenges are that are facing the community. And I think for the first time, we're gonna really be able to bring in some meaningful data that will support the work that we're doing and help guide the work going forward. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the feedback. It's always nice to know things are going right.
Well, there, I believe Madam Chair Melissa Mouton would also like to speak. She would have signed up ahead of time.
Hi, everyone. Melissa Mouton. I am from Vigo, Colorado. We are starting the Recovery High School. I appreciate your consideration for our proposal, but I just wanted to clarify that you have received COAC infrastructure for El Paso County, and we received it last year to build the Recovery High School. But we also weren't, the application we submitted to you guys was delayed enough that we had to delay the start of the school. We were supposed to start in 2 months, fall of 26, and the COAC funded the capital, and then we were asking you guys to front the startup costs, because until we build our enrollment, we need some fundraising to grow up to full enrollment when we get the K-12 dollars. But when that was delayed, we punted a year. And so I just wanted to share that we absolutely are on track to open in the fall of 27. But I will resubmit in July, but there is it's kind of an intense timing issue about when those awards are announced. Because if it's past like much later, like August or early September, it's very difficult for me to get a new school off the ground in that timing. So I just wanted to clarify that we do have capital support. I have raised money outside of the council for the El Paso County School. We just need a little bit of a gap closed, and we would like to proceed on the current timeline we're on, which is already a 1-year delay. We would like to proceed and launch operations early this fall if possible for a strong fall 2027 launch. We are launching schools in obviously Denver, and we're actually launching schools as well in Missouri. So we'd love to bring Colorado Springs into that fold, and we have, I would say, most of the funding to be able to comfortably launch operations. But I just wanted to be transparent that we have received the COAC funding for the infrastructure, but we still need we need local support.
Here's some info about infrastructure.
Our phones listen to everything.
I'll stop talking. The COAC has been okay with the delay.
What's this?
And I do appreciate, you guys wrote us a support letter a year ago to get that funding, and they're okay with the delay. But if we delay another year, I'm not comfortable asking them for that delay. We'll probably need to repurpose that for the Aurora campus or something else. So I just wanted to be transparent and ask for a little bit of communication on kind of the future plans, because the timing is pretty tight as far as the go, no-go status for us. So any questions for me?
So you said October is too late. Is that what you said?
Because that would be if the window is July to September, we review in October and vote in October. So is that what you were saying?
I mean, operationally, I like to have my leader start in early October. I could potentially delay a month, if necessary. I could, yes. If that is a necessary thing, it is, but like the thing about school launches, the more you delay, it just becomes part of an order, so.
Well, I wouldn't be sure delay because we don't know what that'll look like and we can't guarantee funds right here. So I mean, I wouldn't delay because of us. Meaning it's not gonna matter. I mean, she needs to keep going regardless of what that looks like, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that if without local support, I feel hesitant to step out on that limb from a fundraising standpoint to launch operations.
So you're saying if you don't receive the funding from this council, your school isn't opening?
It's not that I can't open, I can go and get private philanthropy, but it's more about my partnerships with the community and the work that we've done in other counties, and that I've always had strong opioid support. I believe that the opioid councils drive the strategic vision for substance use in those regions. And so it's more of, it's less about the money and more about, I want to partner with you guys to make sure that I am in track with what the local community is supporting and not supporting, if that makes a little bit of sense. So.
It does, if, as part of this reapplication process, if you could put a note in there, somewhere just in your application, just highlighting your specific timeline and calendar challenges,
Okay.
then that can be communicated to the board. It might be something that we could look at and address as we move forward.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And I'm willing to go get extra philanthropy to answer your question, but the first question I get every single time is, does Region 16 support you? Right, so it's more of a partnership and a being in with the fold that's important to me, so. I'll put it in.
Thank you.
guys. Yep.
We do have Dawn Reinfeld with Blue Rising.
Hi, I wasn't planning on speaking, but I wanted to thank you all so much for the vote of confidence in approving our grant. We're really excited. We have been mainly focused on college education because we feel like the risk landscape has really changed, especially for fentanyl for college students. And in our group, we have many families who lost their college age students to fentanyl poisoning. But recently we expanded into high schools through a grant from the Well Trust. And that's been really incredible to educate. Recently we've done ninth graders and to get the feedback from them about things that they didn't know, especially the drugs fentanyl could be hiding in, kind of talking about whether it would change their risk profile and whether they'd be more open to taking drugs that they didn't know where they were from, especially pills, obviously. And the impact and the comments from the kids have been really fantastic. So we're really excited to do more of that in El Paso County and Teller County, and really excited to doing more outreach into rural areas. In fact, I was on the call today with a high school in Alt to present for them in the fall. And so it's really a passion of ours to get at the communities that really are often not getting the outreach that they need to get given, and we partner a lot with Ames Community College as well. And the other thing I also wanted to call out is that we are working with directly in communities like this with students and educating. And then also we work at the state level for a system-wide change, because we feel like we also have to work at choking off the easy access to drugs through social media. And we just passed and was signed into law on March 30th, a bill. DA Allen was a part of our effort to have social media companies have to respond to warrants within 72 hours. It's really important for sex trafficking of minors, drug sales. We had one of our families spoke about how their son in Broomfield died from fentanyl poisoning, and the platform took so long to respond, and there was just a little error. There was a backslash used in the warrant that they submitted to the platforms. So the platform rejected the warrant. And it took the person, once they were finally caught, said that they were responsible for 4 more deaths since Kim, her son, died. And so we know that responding within 72 hours is really important. And then it would also have, they're required to have a 24/7 hotline for law enforcement to ask questions and follow up about the warrants. And so hopefully something like a backslash wouldn't stop justice from happening. So we're really excited about that, and the combination of both working kind of locally with young people, and shout out to Melissa. We often partner with kids from 5280 High School to talk about our policies and run our policies that we're working on at the legislature by them. So we really kind of
trying to take a larger holistic approach in how we are reducing drug access, especially in the social media unregulated drug marketplace. So thank you so much again. We're super excited. We have been supplying materials at UCCS for a couple of years. And we were thinking that we would be able to continue supplying the materials. They give them out like once a month in the student union area. And so now I'm excited to be able to tell them we can continue supplying those materials. So thank you. If anyone has any questions, and apologize for being totally off the cuff.
Well, Dawn, thanks for coming up and speaking out. I'm glad that you answered the call to get up and say a few words. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. You've been a great partner in protecting kids around the state of Colorado, and I just appreciate all the work you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much. And Matt is one of our families also
Yeah.
that's been very involved in helping us create. Yeah.
I had Bob around back there.
There, back there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the update. I don't have any other. Sure. We'll have to. The correct one. Currently, you're not seeing.
Hello, Council Chair, Councilman. My name is Julie Solis. I'm the Director for Family Treatment Drug Court in the 4th Judicial District. I just wanted to put a face to the name. I appreciate your guys' support. My magistrate appreciates you. She'd be here with me today, but she's in docket. I just wanted to let you know that we served 55 families, rotating docket, all through the year, and in that turn, while serving those parents with substance use disorder, we're also serving over 200 children and keeping them in their homes. So I just want to thank you for your support. And if you ever have any questions, or I'd like to extend an invitation to view one of our dockets. People don't know a lot about problem-solving courts, even though we've been around for 30 years. What we do in the community and how much we help and how much problem-solving courts get the job done. So I appreciate your help. Does anyone have any questions for me?
How would we follow up if we wanted to?
Yeah, you can just get a hold of me. I'm the project director on the grant. You can also go to problemsolvingcourts.gov in the state of Colorado, and my name will pop up under Well Baby Court and Family Treatment Drug Court. And just let me know if you ever want to attend a docket. Love to have you.
And I'm sure we'll have a report out. Be great to have the magistrate here when you do the report out. It's really fun to hear the stories.
Yes, she would love to be here. She apologizes for not being.
Yeah, well, thanks for the update. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Since it's popcorn, is there any more that aren't on the list? All right, well, that's it. We are adjourned.